Okay, so I've went ahead and created the React application so that you guys can store your contract on a hardware wallet, and you'll be able to update your contract from there. You can change the keys within this app and all that stuff. I'll show you in a second. The first thing that you're going to need to do is just download the app. I've put it on GitHub, and all you need to do is just go to the link, the GitHub link, which I'm going to post beneath the video, but this is it right here in the browser. And then once you arrive at this page, there's going to be a green code button that you can click, and then you can just download this as a zip file. It's really small, it'll only take a second. Once you do that, just unzip the file and then take the folder, the admin panel tutorial folder that's going to be in that zip file, and move it to the root of your computer. I've moved mine into the root, and now I'm inside the folder. And as you can see, there's a couple of folders and a few files in here. And before we can move forward and actually use the app, what we're going to need to do is we're going to have to make sure we have Node.js installed on our computer. So let's open up our terminal, and you can find out if you have this installed by just putting node -- version. And as you can see, I have version 16.15.0. If it doesn't tell you what version you have, or you get an error here, you're going to need to go to nodejs.org. I'll link that beneath the video as well. And you can just download the latest version, the latest stable version. And then once you have that installed on your computer, that's really simple. Then you'll be ready for the next step. And for the next step, you're also going to need Visual Studio Code, which is a text editor that's free. That's the one that I use for my front end stuff. And then once you have Visual Studio Code installed on your computer and you have it open, you just go to the menu at the top and go to Open Folder. And then you're going to open the actual folder, the admin panel folder. And then once you have that open, it's going to look something like this. So what you're going to want to do is go to the menu at the top of your computer and click on the Terminal tab. And you can click on New Terminal in order to open up a new terminal right here in Visual Studio Code. And then once you have the terminal open, you're going to enter a command in here that says npm install legacy peer deps. You don't need to worry about this too much. You're basically just installing all the dependencies for this app to run. So you just hit enter. This might take a minute. And this is one of the reasons why we just downloaded Node.js on our computer. If we did not have Node.js, this command would not work. npm is Node Package Manager, so you need Node.js in order to do this. And then you'll see as this is running, there's going to be a new folder that pops up on the left-hand side here called Node Modules. This is like all the dependencies, all the different folders and files that are needed in order for our app to run. And the reason why you have to do this instead of me just storing this on GitHub is because the file size is just way smaller this way. It's a lot easier to just keep it light, and then you could download the modules yourself. Okay, so now that that went through, then you're going to type npm start, and this is going to start the app in our browser. So our browser should open up in a second. Okay, so you can see it's opened up in our browser on port 3006. If you run into any errors when you try to start this, if it tells you the port is busy or something like that, all you need to do is just go into Visual Studio Code, there's a file called package.json, and you can see right in here where it says script start, I have it specified to port 3006. That's only because I have like 5 different apps that I'm running all the time. It's pretty standard to use port 3000, so you could actually change this to port 3000, save it, and then type npm start, or just do it on any port that you like that's not busy. Basically, anyone that's open is fine, but right now it's set to 3006. All right, so as you can see, we've just got a very basic homepage here. I mean, I made this like bare bones. It's just enough for you to log in, change the permissions on your account, and deploy the contract. So the first thing you're going to want to do is log in. Now, I actually have this app currently set to mainnet, so I'll show you how to make some changes here. If you go into the files on the left side here, inside of the data folder, there's a file called config.js. And you can see that I've defined a variable called testnet chain here, and also a variable called mainnet chain. And then I have another variable called my chain, which is the one that this is going to be the chain that you're actually using at any given time. Right now I have this set to mainnet chain, so I'm connected to the mainnet, but I could just as easily just change this right here to be my chain equals testnet chain. And now the app will, once I save it, the app will actually now be connected to the Wax testnet instead. So if I refresh the page now just to make sure it went through and everything, and now I click log in, it's going to ask me to open up Anchor. And you can see that I am connected to the Wax testnet here. I logged in as code tutorial, or I'm about to log in as code tutorial. Now I've entered my password, and it says you are logged in as code tutorial, and it presents us with three options right here. Update the active auth, update the owner auth, or deploy a contract. So in order for us to do anything with our hardware wallet, we're first going to have to actually connect the Wax account or the Wax testnet account to our hardware wallet. Right now, we just have a random public key, private key pair sitting on our computer waiting for somebody to steal it, right? So the first thing that we need to do is sign a transaction where we change the active key to be the key on our hardware wallet. And I've put an option for this inside another file here in this app under wallet functions. You can see right at the top, if you click on wallet functions.js, I have 4 variables set up right here at the top. One of them is new active key, and this is going to be the public key of the new account, the one that you want to change this to. So all you have to do is put your ledger public key in between these 2 quotes right here. And you can get that by going into Anchor, clicking on Manage Wallets, Import Account, Import an existing account, and then Load from Ledger. And then if you just click on the Ledger Settings tab, you can actually see the public key of your ledger. And there's more than one on here. If you change the key index here from 0 to 1, it's going to show you a different public key, for example. But I'm just going to keep that at 0 because you're probably going to run into problems and get confused if you change that and forget about it. All right, so the point is, this right here is my public key on my ledger. So all I have to do is copy this and then paste it in between these quotes for new active key and hit save. So now if I go back to the app here and just refresh the page, and if I click on update active auth, it's going to ask me to sign a transaction. It's going to tell you that you're doing something dangerous right now. You actually need to enable a special setting inside Anchor to allow this. But you can see that it's asking me to change my active key to be this new key here. And just FYI, I have this transaction set up with the EOSIO.code permission also included, that special permission that we added before where the contract is allowed to send tokens. So if you sign this transaction, you're also going to be giving that EOSIO.code permission. So now if I click confirm and sign this, your active key has been updated. Now let's go to blocks and take a look and see if we still have the same key or if we got a new one. So let's go to code tutorial on blocks. And if we go to the keys tab right here, you can see the key has in fact been changed. There's 2 different formats, so this might look different than the one you saw a minute ago. But if I click on this little key icon, you can see it now shows the exact same key that I got from inside of Anchor Wallet. So that's it. That's how you change the active key. And then now we're going to want to change the owner key as well. It's pretty much recommended that you use a different key for your owner and active just for like security purposes. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to use the same key again. So I'll do the same thing with owner. And I can do that by just opening the app again. I'm just going to copy this key right here. And I'm going to post it as the new owner key as well. So the new active key and new owner key are going to be the same. Click save. Go back to the admin panel, refresh the page one more time. And then I'm actually going to have a problem trying to do this right now because I no longer have the active key in my wallet. I just changed it. So if I click update owner auth, Anchor is probably going to tell me we can't find a key that meets this criteria. Yeah, look, account not found, couldn't load the expected accounts. That's because we just got rid of the old key, the one that was loaded into Anchor, and we changed it to be our hardware wallet. So now we have to actually just close that and go back into Anchor, load accounts. Oh, we might just need to refresh this. And now if we try to import an existing account, load from ledger, you can see it finds code tutorial at active. So let's import this. All right, and now if I go into my accounts right here, you can see I have code tutorial, but instead of saying active hot, it says active ledger. So my ledger key is now imported, and now if I do this, if I try to sign this update owner auth transaction again, this should actually work this time. Account not found again. Oh, I need to import code tutorial at owner. That's the problem. This is still attached to the old key, the hot key that's just sitting on the computer. So if I do manage wallets, import account, import an existing account, import private key, I actually have to paste the private key of the private owner key that I got from the Wax Testnet account creator. That would be this key right here, owner key, private. So let's copy this, paste it in. Now I should be able to do this. All right, it found the key. Your owner key has been updated. And now if we go back to blocks and hit refresh, the owner and active key should be the same, and they are. Now our contract is on our ledger. That old key that we had, that hot key that was just sitting on the computer waiting to be hacked, that's now secure, sitting on a ledger hardware wallet. And that's great, but what happens if we need to actually make updates to the contract, which we are going to need to do, right? So that's what I'm about to show you right now. Now what we're going to do is open our terminal again, type cd to go into the root, and we're going to create a new directory for this new script that we're about to create. So let's type mkdir, and we'll call it deploy script. And now we're just going to go into that folder by typing cd deploy script. And you can see I'm actually in that folder where I'm supposed to be. And this is another part where we're going to need Node.js installed on our system, which we have because we installed it already. So that's not a problem. And now we just need to initialize a new project. So we're going to type npm init-y. And we've created a new project inside of this folder. If it works successfully, you should get a message like this. And if you open the folder, you should see a package.json file inside of it. And the next thing that we're going to need to do is install EOS.js, which is the library that allows us to interact with EOS and Wax blockchains. And you can do that by typing this command right here, npm install EOS.js. And then you're going to also add some other libraries that we might be using, which would be Axios, NodeFetch, and Util. You don't need to worry too much about what these are, but we're going to need at least a couple of these for this example that we're about to do. I'll also have this command linked below the video with everything else, so you can just copy and paste it if you want. But if you hit enter, it's going to install these, and if it went through properly, it should look something like this. And then there's one more thing that we need to do just to solve a compatibility issue, and that's just to downgrade one of the packages we just installed, and that would be NodeFetch. So you do that by putting npmi NodeFetch at 2.6.1. That just means we're going to downgrade this NodeFetch library that we just installed. We're going to downgrade it to version 2.6.1. If you don't do this, you're going to run into some problems. It's going to give you a compatibility issue when you try to run the script that we're about to create in a minute. So you have to do that. I'm just going to tell you there's a vulnerability, but it's not really that serious, and you kind of have to do this in order for it to work. All right, so now we're going to open up our text editor. I'm going to be using Sublime, but you can use whatever you want. We're going to create a new file, and we're going to save it into our new project folder that we just created, the deploy script folder, and we're going to call this deploy.js. Okay, so here's our code. I know this looks pretty confusing, but it should work perfectly if you just copy and paste it and just change like 2 lines in here. So all you're going to need to do, I'll explain what this all does in a second, but all you need to do is just put a different private key up here. Or actually, this doesn't even matter. You could probably just use this exact same one that I'm using, because this is the old private key that I just changed, the old one from the code tutorial that I used earlier in the video. It's useless now, but it needs to be there apparently in order for the script to work, because you have to connect to the blockchain. So yeah, you could probably just leave that as is. And the important lines are these two right here. So WASM file path and ABI file path. Now you notice that this path right here is a little different than what we had earlier. Normally, the way that I showed you earlier, if we cd'd into the tutorial contracts folder and then typed pwd, it would give us an absolute path here that says users, admin, tutorial contracts. That's an absolute path, but that's not what we need here. What we need here is called a relative path to our WASM file and our ABI file. This basically depends on where we are on our computer. Like, where is this deploy.js file stored? Deploy.js has to know where to look for this file. So all this means right here, these two dots and a slash, this just means go back one folder. And then one dot and a slash means from the current folder, just move forward one directory into tutorial contracts, right? So it's relative, but yours should probably be the same if you've been following everything that I've been doing. So you honestly shouldn't even need to change anything here except for the name of the file, the .wasm and the .abi. You would obviously want to put the name of your contract in your ABI file here. And then once you do that, the only other thing that matters in this file is that down here at the bottom, I have it set to console log. This just means print out or show me the hex string of the WASM and the serialized ABI hex string of the contract ABI. So how do we actually, what does that mean? What do we do with that? How do we use it? Well, if we go into our terminal and then we cd into the deploy script folder that we just created. And now in order to run, let's make sure we have this saved. In order to run this deploy.js script, all we have to do, the command to run that is just node and then deploy. You don't even need to put .js because node is just going to look for a JS file by default. So you just type node deploy and hit enter, and here we go. So it has just printed out this gigantic string. This is our contract right here. So if we copy the whole big string, this is the WASM, this whole gigantic string here. So if we just copy that and then we go into our React application, you can see I've also put variables for these right here in this wallet functions.js file. So WASM hash equals, and then inside the quotes, you just put that gigantic WASM string. And then the ABI hex string is obviously going to be the ABI hex string that was just printed out as well. So down here it says contract ABI. It's much smaller. We just copy that and paste that, and now hit save. Now we have the WASM and the ABI both saved as variables, and then down here in these functions that I created, this deploy function that I created, you can see it uses that WASM hash as the contract code and the ABI hex string as the ABI code. Once you hit save, all that's really left to do now in order to actually deploy this contract is to go back into your admin panel. Just make sure you refresh, because when you make changes like this, it kind of sometimes causes issues. Make sure your ledger is open and connected. And then now all you need to do is hit deploy contract. It's going to open up Anchor. It's going to ask you to sign, and you can see where it says code, you've got that gigantic hex string that you just copied. And the ABI is also down there at the bottom. Now if we hit OK, it's going to ask you to actually sign this on your Ledger hardware wallet. So you've got to approve that. It's going to ask you to review it and then confirm. And it might stay frozen like this for like a good minute or two. This is a big contract. So if nothing happens after you first click yes, give it a minute. It actually popped up already. But with bigger contracts, sometimes it takes me like 2 minutes for it to load onto the ledger. So don't get worried if it takes a second. But now I just need to confirm 2 transactions on my ledger, 2 actions, update the code and update the ABI. Click sign. All right, so for me, nothing happened because I haven't changed the code since the last time I deployed it. So it just says the contract is already running this version. You don't need to make any changes. What are you doing? You're wasting bandwidth on the blockchain, right? But you get the point. If you were actually making an update to your contract, this would have went through. And that's it. Now you know how to deploy a contract using your hardware wallet to store your contract on a hardware wallet. So you're all set, and you can make sure that you can rest easy at night knowing that your contract is safe. Okay, so I think that covers pretty much everything that I wanted to cover. I know you guys are going to leave here with a few questions. There's definitely going to be some other stuff. But that's the whole point of coding, right? You learn how to do everything, and then you kind of use your own brain to come up with your own ideas. So hopefully you guys come up with some good ideas. I'm excited to see what you come up with. And make sure you pop in the Waxed Out Telegram channel and let me know what you're working on, or if you have any questions, just come in there and ask me. I'll have links to all the resources that I mentioned in the video beneath this video in the description. Anything that you could possibly want, whether it's websites or Discord channels or code samples, the entire smart contract, all the commands that I entered into the terminal, the programs I downloaded, all that stuff is going to be in the description beneath the video. I hope this was helpful to you guys. I wish I had something like this when I was starting out because it was very hard to learn. But hopefully you guys learned some good information from these videos. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time.